Hello everybody, this is Brad Does It All. I'm going to go through a complete winterization on my 2006 Mastercraft X15 with the Indmar MCX 350 engine. We're going to go through all the steps you need to do for your winterization, and I'm also going to show you in this video how to fill your block with antifreeze without warming up the engine first. So we'll debunk the theory that you have to remove your thermostat. I'm going to put in Stabile into the tank just to help it stay fresh over the winter. I've got about 40 gallons, so that's about 16 ounces of Stabile. I've got about the 16 ounces in, so now I always chase mine with just a little bit of gas just so it'll mix a little bit and go in there. To get started, first thing we want to do is shut off our ball valves to the ballast intake and the raw water intake. First is the port side, which is the ballast intake. So just shut it off. Now I'm closing the ball valve for the raw water intake, which on my boat is located under the center seat. Okay, first thing I start out doing to drain the engine is I'll go ahead and unscrew. This is for the exhaust manifolds. And it's usually a little snug. If you need to, you can put a wrench and some pliers. Alright, so we'll let that drain into the bilge. And then on both sides you'll have a knock sensor that's here. You'll need to unplug the knock sensor, lay over to the side. And I've never found a good wrench that will work on the actual large part that screws in there, but I never really snug them up very tight, and they don't have to be because it's a pipe thread. So I just take a 1/2-inch wrench and just loosen this and just unscrew it all the way. Be careful not to drop it in the bilge. And you'll notice there's not much water coming out, so what you need to usually do is, if you got a little Allen key, hex key, get up in there, and there's usually like a little bit of debris, and you can see how it's flowing now, so that's good. Just be sure to clean out that debris so you flow out good, or you won't get all your water out. Okay, I got this side drained, so I'm going to go ahead and put this knock sensor back in. We'll snug it up. Okay, I'm going to plug the sensor back in. Alright, it's clicked. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hook up our exhaust manifold hose again. Okay, and then we're going to repeat this on the other side. Of course, the exhaust manifold is only on this side, so you'll have another plug on the other side, another knock sensor, and you'll take it out and do the exact same thing. Alright, I'm on the other side now. I've already drained this side where the knock sensor's at, but I go ahead and, this is a transmission cooler, and I go ahead and take this hose off and get the water out of it. And I just keep this on the boat. It's super handy, 5/16 nut driver, works on almost all the hose clamps, so it's always good to keep it handy. So we'll take this loose. A little bit of water in there. It's always good to check in here. This has got a little strainer for your transmission cooler, just to be sure you don't have anything in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the hoses off the water pump, just to make sure all the water's out of there. And that was the out of the water pump. This is the inlet from the sea strainer. See, you got a little bit of water in there, so we'll get that out. We're going to leave that one off because I'm going to hook up another hose to install to put in my antifreeze. My particular boat has a heater, so if you have a heater, I'll take these hoses loose. And we've got this one up here with the spigot. And we'll take these out. Just a little bit of a better angle here to see where these hoses are. Here's the one hose. That one is a little tough to get off. Then here's the one at the spigot, so you can see where those two go. Pull those out of the way. So here's the one, if you can see my finger. And then here's your other spigot right here. The heater hoses are loose now, and I just put this one down in the bilge and I just blow through just to get all the water I can out of the heater. Alright, that should be pretty good. Alright, the water is all out of the hoses now, so I'm going to go ahead and put the hose clamps back on. I've already put the bottom one on, so it's good. Be sure your valve's open, because we're going to run antifreeze through here when I start the engine, so we're going to be sure that's open so the antifreeze will flow through the heater. I'm getting ready to put antifreeze in. So if you have a dripless shaft seal, you're most likely going to have a water line going to it. And you can see the dripless shaft seal down here is blue. As you can see, I've taken a pair of vice grips and pinched this off. That way, your antifreeze is going to flow, and it's going to flow and just go right out the bottom of your boat. So I learned that the hard way. So pinch this off so that you won't lose all your antifreeze while you're running the engine. Now I've got this clear hose hooked up. You can see it's hooked up down here to the inlet to the water pump. If you can see my hand right here, I've got it hooked up. I'll need to hook up the outlet to the pump up. I just left it off just to show you for clarity. And as you can see, I've got it run over into here into a container of antifreeze. I put about, it usually takes 6 gallons, but I'll go ahead and put 7 just to be safe, and I'm going to run it till it comes out of the exhaust. Just a little note about the antifreeze. You want to put this in undiluted, so you want to just put it straight out of the can. And this year I got this Starbright, and it actually specifically for engines, and it's pure propylene glycol, and it has corrosion inhibitors. The stuff you can usually buy, you know, at the general hardware store, Walmart, you got to be careful because a lot of it has alcohol. I got things ready to go. I'm going to start up the engine now. I've got the antifreeze and my hose in the bucket, so we'll start up the engine. We'll let it run through the engine, and when it comes out the exhaust, we'll shut it down. At this point, and if you notice, I've not made any mention that I had ran the engine up to temperature before doing so. This is because all modern engines will have a bypass in the cooling system. So there's no need to have the thermostat open or remove it to be sure the block is full of antifreeze. And this bypass is typically done to prevent hot spots in the motor as it's warming up. It allows the motor to warm up evenly and prevents air pockets. So in this next clip, I'll be showing you what I do to check this, to be sure that my block is full of antifreeze. And you can do this same method that I'll show you, and you can check and be sure that this method works for your engine. We're going to remove the hose off of the thermostat housing, and I'm going to fill that hose with antifreeze, and you can watch when the thermostat's out, antifreeze will run out of that. So you know, if you're pouring it in the hose, it's going through the bottom of the engine and it's coming out the thermostat housing. If that happens, your engine is full. It's not going anywhere else. Or here's the hose I'm talking about. Here's your thermostat housing. This is a large J hose. And so I've got this already loosened up, so I'm going to pull this loose. And as you can see here, we're going to watch, and you're going to see antifreeze come out of here when I start filling it up. And it's not going to take very much because I've already ran my engine, so it's pretty much full of antifreeze. But this is just a double check that I like to do. So I've got this little PVC pipe in here that I use. Okay, and I'm going to pour antifreeze, and when it comes out, we definitely know that it's full. Okay, you can see the antifreeze coming out, so you definitely know that the engine is full of antifreeze. I'm going to attach the hose back up. Now I'm just going to double check the heater again, just to be sure it's full. So I've got this hose ready to go, so I'm going to pour in some antifreeze. Most of the time it won't start running out of that hose, but I've got it, I'm just watching in my funnel here until it's kind of going as high as it'll go. So that's about as high as it'll go. Probably have some run out. And I'm just going to watching here, and it should come out here, and then you know your heater is full. Okay, see the antifreeze came out, so we've got the heater full, so connect back up. I'm moving on to the ballast system now. In my particular boat, I have hard tanks, and I also have soft bags piggybacked off of those. So I'm going to show you what I started off doing to remove the bags. With bags, you'll have, this is your field drain. I've disconnected it ahead of time. And then you'll also have a vent line that you'll need to disconnect from the top of the bag. And once I do that, I'll pull these bags out in all 3 locations. After I get the bags out, I actually usually take them to my house, and I'll pour in maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons of bleach, and I'll put in a couple gallons of water, shake it out, and rinse it back out just to make sure all the lake water's out and it's clean. And then I just let them dry out for a couple of days and fold them up and store them. In my Mastercraft X15, it has a manifold, as you can see down here, and it has a little T in here, which hopefully your boat has this, because it makes it super handy when you're filling the ballast tanks with antifreeze. I like to put about 1 gallon in each tank. So with my boat, I have a front ballast tank and 2 rear tanks. So it works out if you just get a washing machine hose. It screws right on this fitting, and then you can just take the other end. I've got some jugs of antifreeze here ready to go, and I'll put it down there in the bottom, and then I'll turn the pumps on for all 3 tanks and pump out about 1 gallon to each one. Got the jugs ready to go, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the first tank and fill it up with 1 gallon. As you can see, got this in here, it's going down. If you don't have a T-fitting in the rear of your boat with the ballast manifold like I do for my Mastercraft, if you have bags, what you can do is, after you've removed the bags, you can just simply take your antifreeze and with a funnel and just pour it down in here, and it'll go directly in your tank. And if you don't have a bags, then this is your vent hose. This hose will not be here, and you'll just be directly connected here if you don't have bags. So if that's the case, what you'll need to do is trace this hose back up to your hull. For my particular boat, I've traced up the fitting, and you can see it right here. And in this case, if you don't have bags, just take you a funnel, probably need a little short piece of hose to get it in there, and then just pour a gallon of antifreeze in there, and it'll go right through your vent line and drop right directly into your hard tank. Now I've got the rear panel removed so I can access the ballast pumps. For my ballast pumps, I like to remove the impellers over the winter. So this is the Jabsco ballast pump, and there's 3 screws. I've got 2 of them removed already. We'll just take out the last one, remove the cover, and some bent nose pliers work really great. Just gently remove that, and I just leave these out. You can always check them, be sure there's no flat spots, and if they look good, you can reuse those for next year. The reason I remove these is I just do so that the fins on the impeller don't take a set during the winter being left in the pump. Now, just kind of protect the outside of the engine, I go ahead and spray some. I use this CRC Marine 6-56. Some people use WD-40. I just like this a little better. But just really on the exposed metal pieces, like down here, my transmission coupler, I'll just spray a little bit. Engine mounts. And if you're going to be doing this, storing it inside, I don't go a lot, but for you guys that store outside, it's a good idea to use this. And same thing on the engine part. If you got some exposed metal, just spray some of that on there. And then I like to use the white lithium grease to do all my linkages. This boat is fuel injected, so we don't have a lot of carburetor linkages, but here on the transmission, just put a little bit here, and I'll also do the rudder and any other linkage. Just put your little white lithium grease on there, and you should be good to go. Now I'm getting ready to fog the engine. Mine's fuel injected. I like to go ahead and fog it through the cylinder holes, so I remove each spark plug and do it that way. Some people do it through the intake, but I always feel this is a safer way to do it. So one thing to remember is always hold your straw as you're squirting the fogging oil in the cylinder to be sure you don't lose it in there. And after I do that, I like to follow up with some antifreeze on my spark plugs. Again, I'm holding the straw to be sure I don't lose that into the cylinder. Okay, that should be good. Now that I've fogged all 8 cylinders, I go ahead and remove the safety lanyard, and that's because I'm going to bump the engine over just to distribute the fogging oil. So I don't want to start the engine, just want to bump it. Okay, we should be good with the fogging. This wraps up my video on winterization. And of course, I've really just went through the things that you really have to do to winterize. There's other things that I do in the winter before I put it in for storage. You know, the last thing that I do after I come off the lake is I do change my engine oil and transmission oil while the engine is hot. And for me, I leave my impeller in during the winter because I always wait to change it in the spring. You know, that's just a personal choice if you want to take it out now or later. I appreciate everyone watching Brad Does It All. Please stay tuned to the end. I have some final thoughts on some technical issues if you'd like to watch those. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Just wanted to add a few more notes about the antifreeze that does contain alcohol. Manufacturers do this because it is effective in lowering the freezing point of their product, and it is inexpensive. The problems that it can cause is it can dry out rubber and some types of seals over time. And, you know, if you've already done your engine this season with alcohol in your antifreeze, I wouldn't necessarily go out and drain it and start over. I mean, I think this is something that's going to be cumulative if you've used it for many seasons, year after year. Just wanted to bring up the final subject of the different types of winterization. There's always the age-old debate. Some people will drain the water out of their engine only. Some people will drain the water out and fill it up with antifreeze, as I've done. Some people will leave the water in and then run the antifreeze to the engine and push all the water out. Then others will fill it up with antifreeze and then drain antifreeze out and leave it that way. And if you get all the water out of your engine and you've used the proper antifreeze, I mean, all those methods will work. In my case, I do like to leave the antifreeze in because it does add corrosion protection to the inside of the engine. I've done tests where I've taken pieces of cast iron and placed them into a container of antifreeze and a container of water, and then another one I rinsed water over it and then just left it dry in the container. And it does make a difference. The antifreeze does provide the best protection.